Okay. And just FYI, guys, we are broadcasting and recording now. So don't say anything too terrible. Hunter, watch the F-bombs. You get 2. I'll give you 2.
Thank you for giving me 2. I think I can stay in that limit. Sorry.
Don't use it within the first 15 minutes. You got to stretch this out an hour.
Okay. I'll try.
I appreciate that. All right. Hey, guys, welcome so much to the webinar. We'll get started in just a few minutes. We're a couple minutes early, and I want to make sure there's plenty of time for people to join us. Y'all have such good headshots, by the way. They look really nice. I'm very jealous.
I tried to find a color version of mine so that I could fit in, but didn't happen.
That's fine. I could have made the others black and white too, but no.
That's a thought.
Would have worked too. Okay, everybody, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Anna Townsend. Welcome to our webinar today. We've done a bunch of these educational webinars recently, and I'm really happy to present this one with these 3 really amazing experts. Today, we're going to talk about restaurant PR and marketing in the age of COVID-19. This webinar will feature a lot of questions that I know you guys have asked over the past couple of months related to how to talk to the press, what do you do around digital marketing, how do you do good social content, especially now. We don't want to come across as just, pushing the brand constantly without being aware of what's going on with consumers, employees, and their guests during this crazy time. Again, my name is Anna. I'm the Chief Revenue and Innovation Officer here for the Texas Restaurant Association. And while you're on the webinar today, we are recording it, by the way, and I will make it available within an hour after the recording is done. When you have a question, and I encourage you to ask questions throughout the program, use the Q&A window or the chat window to ask your question, and I'll bring it up during the program if it makes sense at that time, or save it till the end of the program where you can ask your questions. These 3 are amazing experts, and I'm super excited to do this with them today. But even more so, I'm very happy to introduce our sponsor for this webinar, Upshow. I'm going to turn it over to Scott Igzanovich so he can explain what Upshow is and how it benefits restaurants. Scott?
Great. Thanks, Anna, for the introduction. As Anna just alluded to, I am Scott Igzanovich, the Chief Revenue Officer here at Upshow. And we are thrilled to be with you here today. So what a great topic and set of speakers we have on the agenda. Lindsey, Kyle, and Hunter have some excellent content on a topic that we are all extremely passionate about. But before we get to them, just a quick overview of who Upshow is and a special offer we have for our friends at the Texas Restaurant Association. As you all know, millions of marketing dollars are spent annually driving consumers off of their couch and to the front door of restaurants across the country. But most brands don't maximize their resources on influencing their customers while they are actually inside of the restaurant. Thus, I introduce to you Upshow, TV built for brands. Upshow is created to help restaurants leverage the mind share your patrons have for your brand while they are present inside of your venue. Upshow does this by transforming your television screens into an industry-leading marketing and communication platform. Whether you are trying to drive app downloads, loyalty signups, share limited time offers, or create organic word-of-mouth marketing through reviews or social media posts, Upshow is designed to help increase revenues, all while enriching your customer's experience. And Anna, you can hit the next slide there. We here at Upshow play a large role in our customers' marketing initiatives. During these unprecedented times, we asked ourselves one burning question: how can we help all of you make your customers feel comfortable and safe, all while moving the business forward as we return back to business? Well, the answer was simple. Develop a back-to-business toolkit that restaurants across the country can use to guide them through their reopening. The toolkit, which is being provided to everyone on this call complimentary, is comprised of a reopening checklist. It is inclusive of a proven email and social media marketing templates and professionally curated pieces of content for you and your team to leverage. As you see here, these pieces of content are made up of different messaging that you can provide to your customers about new safety protocols you have put in place. And it is also inclusive of a variety of creative and proven revenue driving tips to help jumpstart sales. And if you flip to the next one, the Back to Business Toolkit is just an easy download away. So I'll ask all of you to humor me for a second and grab your cell phone. I know they're next to you. And open up the camera feature on your cell phone. Once you've done that, zoom in on that up code on the right side of the screen. From there, a link will drop down from the top of your phone screen. Tap that link and it'll take you right to the toolkit. Fill in your information and the toolkit is all yours. So with that, I'll sign off and let you get started with the rest of your agenda today, and best of luck in your reopening.
Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate that. And I did notice that all four of us actually held up our phones and clipped the QR code. So I appreciate that. I know we'll definitely download it in a minute. I almost got finished downloading it actually before we got started. Okay, I'm gonna pin you down. There we go. And I did tell our wonderful sponsors that I was going to change their role to attendees so they don't have to stare at the screen the whole time. So they know that this is happening. Okay, so we're going to move forward and go into our panelists now. I would love for you guys to do a brief introduction of who you are and who you work for, if you work for yourself, and who some of your clients are and your concepts. Lindsey, let's start with you and then go to Kyle and then Hunter.
Sure. Thanks for having me. This is going to be really fun today. My name is Lindsey Brown. I have a PR firm called Lindsey Brown Public Relations. I'm based in Houston. I spent 10 years doing PR for the Greater Houston Convention and Visitors Bureau, and then decided to go out on my own after that. And so I'm all restaurant clients at this point. So I work with Underbelly Hospitality, Goodnight Hospitality, Kata Robata, and Fijis Barbecue right now. So it's a fun group of people that are doing really innovative things.
Great. Kyle?
Yes, my name is Kyle Noonan, and thank you for having me, Anna. I own a company out of Dallas called Free Range Concepts, and under our umbrella, we own 11 restaurants throughout Texas, in Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and Houston, and soon to be Austin. Our four brands are The Rustic, which is a restaurant and bar with a 3,000 person outdoor concert venue. Another brand is Bowl and Barrel, which is a restaurant and bar with an upscale boutique bowling alley. Another brand is Mutt's Canine Cantina, which is a restaurant and bar that overlooks a private membership-based dog park. And our final concept is our true actual restaurant called The General Public, which is an American gastropub. We have two of those in San Antonio and Houston.
Great. Hunter?
My name is Hunter Townsend. I'm the founder of a social media marketing company called Consumable Content. We are based out of Austin and currently represent a pretty extensive list of clients, but notably, and the longest running client has been Via 313, which is actually how I transitioned from working in restaurants to working in restaurant marketing, was by taking over Via 313's social media program about 3.5 years ago. And finding that was kind of finally the place within the industry that I felt like I could do the most good for the most people. So yeah, so that's my experience. Super excited to be here with you guys.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. All three of these people represent different areas of expertise. I know you're going to learn a lot from them today, and they're always available, especially whenever I need them, to answer different questions at different times. So I'm really thrilled to be talking with you guys about this. Okay, so let's talk about customers first. I know that whenever the pandemic first started, people were worried about customers coming back. How could they service customers? When would they come back to restaurants? Obviously, a restaurant is nothing if they don't have guests coming in or coming by to pick up food. So I'd like to turn it over to Lindsey first to talk a little bit about how some of her clients have pivoted a little bit to meet customer expectations and how they talk about that.
Sure, absolutely. So I think we've all heard it said a million times that we're living in an unprecedented time. So you have to be able to change very quickly, I think, to survive with what's going on, because I think the days of a full restaurant with people waiting out the door, I think they're a long way away. So it's figuring out how can you find new revenue streams and revenue sources. And first, that was curbside. It's like, how quickly can you get a efficient, easy to use system up and running? And in most cases, that's not really a PR person's job or a marketing person's job. But at the end of the day, we're all trying to show value. So if we can find a way to keep our customers making money, or our clients making money, then we can hopefully keep jobs. But it's also, I think Kyle had a great example of some of the things that they're doing at the Rustic, but it's thinking outside the box. It's coming up with cooking classes and videos and kits and deliveries, and you have to be ready to change.
Yeah, no, that's true. I know one thing we talked about yesterday is when the customer's expectation isn't met, then that's the worst, most negative marketing you can experience.
Exactly. And I think too, changing quickly in a way that maintains your brand. Like I went and picked up a kit from Commodore in Austin a couple of weeks ago, and their branding is perfect. And everything about the delivery of that kit is perfect. And they're not letting anything slide just because we're in this crazy situation. Everything is still top notch. And that's the way we all should be approaching things.
And Lindsey, whenever you say their branding is perfect, can you give me a little bit more about an example on that? Like, was it their stickers?
So it was the packaging. So it came in a box and everything was labeled, but not handwritten labeled, but labeled. They had a menu with all the ingredients. You flip it on the other side, and it's got a QR code where you can click into it. Only if you've purchased this kit can you click into the QR code to watch the chefs make that dish if you need some additional assistance in the kitchen. But it just looked so clean. And so, I'm pretty sure I have some clients in Houston that are going to steal that pretty soon. So
good.
But I think that's the other thing in this industry right now is that we're all trying to survive. So who's doing something that's great, and how can you apply that to your own business?
And if I can jump in to add to that, we also work with Holy Roller here in Austin, and Commodore, I guess they started Assembly Kitchen, which is what they're pushing out those meal kits through.
Yes.
And I think that, and you're right, it's such a cool concept, and they've executed it so well. They partnered with Bun B recently to do like a live cook with him, which was that's incredible. I would never have expected that. But so in addition to seeing what other restaurants are doing and implementing it as part of your own program, there's a big opportunity, I think, now to collaborate and to use the systems and resources that everyone is putting together themselves to build up a community. And for example, with Commodore and Assembly Kitchen, I think maybe it was 3 to 5 weeks into launching the Commodore program, they also launched Holy Roller on that platform. And I know they're continuing to add other restaurants that are putting that same effort into their branding, their meal kits, and including stickers. Like I picked up Holy Roller for their Mother's Day brunch kit, and it wasn't the assembly package, but it was one of their curated boxes that are set for pickup. And not only did they have like all their cute branding on the cups and things that were inside the package, they included a package of Nag Champa incense. And they give you a link to a Spotify playlist so that you can really create a whole vibe in your own home and enjoy the food. So I think it's really cool. And partnering up with people who you see doing those kind of things, you don't necessarily have to start that from scratch.
Yeah. I think maybe I should have changed this first bullet to be exceeding expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah, because who gets incense in with their delivery order? Grubhub is certainly not going to think that far, about how to present your brand that way. I really love the idea of the collaboration that you mentioned, Hunter. I know that we've seen a lot of chefs do some collaborations, especially when it comes to music. There's a lot of natural crossover there. Obviously, Kyle, your concept with the Rustic has a lot of music going on. I was going to save this for later, but do you want to talk a little bit about what you've done with introducing music and your restaurant brand together when it comes for doing takeout?
Totally, yeah. So with the Rustic brand, being that it's a restaurant and bar with live music 7 nights a week, obviously we're very close to the music community. And one of the unfortunate things that has happened, not only did restaurants and bars get shut down, but also the music industry got shut down. And so there were a lot of artists that were out of work. So one of the things that we tried to do is create a online kind of live stream where I do a live cooking demo, make some cocktails, and then I have an artist come out, sit up actually right back here in my backyard and do a little mini concert. So it gives them work, it gives them an ability to get virtual tips through Venmo, and then it just kind of creates a vibe, and we're all looking for ways to be entertained right now, especially since we're stuck at home and not in our normal groove. So we thought, why not just bring in cocktails and food and music and just do a whole thing around it. It's been a lot of fun. I've had the cops called a couple of times because of loud music, but it's been a lot of fun and been very successful, and it's been driving sales to the restaurants, which has been great.
But I think the other thing I like about that is that it's an intimate experience. You're bringing people into your home. And I've seen that with some of my clients too, that have sort of done these at-home kitchen Zoom classes or cooking classes. And it people want to see how other people live. And, it's a glimpse into other people's sort of worlds, which is nice.
Yeah, and the other thing, and you see it just even from watching television, it doesn't even have to be polished or highly produced. We're doing it on cell phones. So, I mean, I think you watch like Ellen, and she's doing her show from her living room, on her sofa, and she's got, Zoom interviews with people from around the world. And it's not highly produced. It's authentic, it's real. And I think that's what the consumer really responds to.
I think you're right, Kyle. One thing that I've seen written on different billboards and stuff is around this idea of intimacy is apart but together.
Yeah.
And that seems to make a lot of sense for what we're seeing with different restaurant brands. I wonder, is there any restaurant brand, in your opinion, where it wouldn't make sense to bring that kind of intimacy into the home? I mean, we represent, large chain restaurants too, but I think a lot of them have that sort of intimacy with their customers as well. But is there anyone that it wouldn't be right for?
So my thought is we're in a unique position as an industry where we, for probably the first time ever, we just across the board have empathy. Like, people feel sorry for us. And so there's a way to tap into that emotionally. And the best way I think to do that is to put a face behind the brand. So if you are a big brand with, where nobody knows who owns it or who runs it, or it's a great opportunity to kind of humanize the brand a little bit. In fact, one of the things we did early on was we went through and I highlighted my team members on social media and just had them tell their story of who they are, where they're from, what their goals are, how long they've worked with us, just things like that, just to kind of put a face and a human story to the brand, so that it's not just this restaurant that got shut down. It's people and people's lives and people's livelihoods and their passions are put on pause. So I don't know that there's a brand that couldn't benefit from that.
Yeah. Okay. We kind of went all over the place, and I don't really care. It's a really good conversation. But I want to talk a little bit more about sort of the in-store experience with customers. Kyle, can you talk a little bit about what people see, what guests see when they first come to the Rustic or any of your brands that are open right now, and what kind of signage they see, and how does that impact your brand? Or are you saying it in a way that still reflects your brand?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is an important touch point, is making sure that however you execute, that it's still on brand.
Yeah.
And that there's some soul behind it, and that it reflects who you want your brand and how you want your guest experience to work. But from a guest perspective standpoint, there was some initial uncertainty. Walking into the building, you're like, what is this going to be like? I don't know. I want to go out, but I'm not sure. And what you see very quickly is the first, after they have that first sip of their cocktail, they just kind of take a deep breath, relax, and they're like, okay, this is cool. We're getting back to normal. So, again, tapping back into the thought that we have empathy from the consumer. We also have excitement from the consumer, and that's a really cool thing. I can't tell you how many times I've been just grabbed on the arm as I'm walking through the dining room, and a guest just goes, "Hey, I just want to tell you thank you for opening. Just thank you for being open right now, because we needed it." And nobody ever said that to me before. I mean, they might be happy that we're open, but nobody's going to take the time to just go, hey, thanks for being here for the community. So it is a unique opportunity for us to tap into the excitement. Not everybody's excited. There are certain segments of the population that don't want restaurants to open. And I understand that, but the ones that are out, our customers are thrilled that we're open and operating and that we're doing it safely.
Okay. Lindsey, let's talk a little bit about that from your perspective with your clients.
Mhm.
Whenever they receive any kind of negative feedback from customers about them being open, how have you coached them through that?
Haven't had a lot of that, which is pretty great. And I think it's because they have all, well, I do have one client that's not even opening until next week. So everyone's been moving really slow. And the people that did open at first opportunity did it in a very careful way. And we spelled out everything that they were doing, clearly communicated. It's on the website, it's posted. And then, obviously it's on them inside the restaurant to follow all those things that we said that they were going to do. But, I really haven't heard anything from anyone that is a complaint. And I think that we're still figuring things out. I have a client tomorrow. We keep hearing over and over again that people feel much more comfortable being on patios. They would rather dine outside than inside. Sure. And I have one, they just don't have any patios in any of their restaurants. And so they are leveraging some of their partnerships with Lexus and a landscaping company to build a patio. Huh. And, thank goodness that Lexus was willing to do it, but it is going to give people an opportunity to dine that might not want to dine inside. And so it's the same kind of thing where if you're going to do it, it needs to match your brand. You can't half-ass it. It needs to be done the right way. You can't just put tables on a parking lot.
Not in Houston.
No, it needs to be well thought out, and it needs to be pretty, and it needs to be a place that people want to be.
Right. That makes sense. I'm sure all of us saw that headline of that restaurant. I think it was in the Netherlands that had those glass houses, and it looked like it fit their brand because it seemed very twinky, and it was about intimacy, and there was only two tops inside these little glass houses. There's a lot of jokes there about glass houses, but it made sense for them. And I know, especially in Houston, we had some of our restaurants say, well, I'm just going to throw patio tables out in the parking lot and people can sit there. And it's like, that sounds like a terrible experience.
And if you're a more upscale restaurant, then that's not who you are, and that's not what people are coming to you for. So it's, how can you figure out a way to meet in the middle without sacrificing anything?
Exactly. It goes back to that whole customer experience is the best marketing you can do. Okay, well, let's move on and talk a little bit more about social media. Kyle, this first bullet is going to go to you because we laughed during our practice session yesterday that these two words don't typically go together, but it is exactly what people need to hear in order to encourage them to come back. So Kyle, how have you guys presented that?
Well, I think, if you look at customer surveys across the board before COVID, environment or experience, food quality, food and drink quality, and service were the top ranking things that drove a customer to select a place to go eat. Mm-hmm. Now it's number one by a mile is cleanliness. I don't know how long that's going to be number one, but I imagine it's going to be at the top of the list for quite some time. So obviously that's the first thing that people are looking for. So you have to be able to communicate that message in an innovative way so that they do feel safe walking in the door. And then once they're on site, that they look around and they go, okay, they're following through with what they said they were going to do. That's the first step. But then there's that other element of it's got to be fun. I mean, otherwise, why am I out? If it's sterile, if there's no energy, if it's not exciting, I might as well just stay at home. So you have to be able to deliver both. Obviously, balancing it is tough. I have a unique advantage because I'm 40, 50,000 square foot spaces, so I can spread out quite a bit, but still have several hundred people in there and have live music and have activity and have energy. But do it safely. Not everybody has that benefit because not everybody has massive dining rooms or massive patios. So just figuring out other ways make it a unique experience so that their consumer is like, yeah, this was worth me sitting in a half empty restaurant or a 3/4 empty restaurant, because it is a unique experience and it is fun.
Yeah. Lindsey, is there anything you want to add to that safe yet fun component around the brands that you're working with?
I mean, I think it's people are also looking for comfort too, you know? And so when they're coming in and they, you know, kata robata, for example, people love kata robata and people just needed to have their sushi, and it's not the same when you have it at home. It's just not. And so, you know, they have not had an available reservation since they opened their doors because of that reason, but it's also because they're following through on everything that they said they were going to. So I think that's an experience where it's like full on, you know, dining experience that people were missing.
Very true. Very true. Hunter, on this next one, we talked a lot yesterday about compassion and how to present that. And I've heard other words that we've used today so far, intimacy and empathy. How can you visualize that when it comes to social? I mean, there's the visual element and then there's the text element in the description. How do you get compassion across for your clients?
I think a lot of it has to do with just authenticity and understanding that your customers are also hurting right now. You know, like I think that, for one, I've always seen social media as a role in the past few years anyway, as it's really exploded, and people tend to use Instagram and Facebook and things like that, like almost as search engines. That social media is really it's a place to make a first impression, like, and a very big one at that. And so I think that number one in being compassionate towards the situation and towards your customers and the fears and things that they're having is setting the precedent for what your new way forward is online, and normalizing that prior to opening if you can, but if not, during, and just kind of admitting, like, knowing that we're all in this together, we're all figuring it out, we're all trying to find the best way to take care of you. And that has been something that, since we talked yesterday, has been really circling my head, is that I feel like very quickly there needs to be a shift in the messaging that, and I feel like this might be a little bit of a tightrope to walk down. There needs to be a little bit of a shift in messaging from here's how you can help us, like here's how you can help the restaurant industry, to here's what we're going to do to take care of you. And I think that really was driven home to me yesterday, because I actually had my first dining experience since all this has happened. And I went to Juniper, who was one of our clients. They just unveiled they spent the entire quarantine working on new menus. And so they opened with completely new menus, new processes, obviously. And just like you said, Kyle, like I'm still a little nervous, you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people are still a little bit nervous, but I wanted to be there. And so we sat down and we were on the patio. And just like you said, man, that first drink, I was just like, okay, I think I could get into this. And then from there, we were just kind of blown away by how much we didn't realize that we missed being taken care of. And I think that's what I've always loved the most about hospitality. That's what drove me to it. And I think that now that we're open, you know, like at least to some degree, and most people are open, and that we have to shift away from relying a little bit on the taglines that we have been using and the way that we have been communicating, to saying now, like, this is back to business. Back to business for us as hospitality professionals is, how do we give you that experience that you're missing? Because even for someone who spends all of his time in restaurants and bars, coming back to it and just having a meal that was cooked by someone else in the environment they designed it to be enjoyed in, with the drinks that they curated, like, that's a very transformative experience for people who love restaurants and love food and beverage. And I think that if we can make that a part of our messaging going forward, then we can appear more compassionate and more authentic, and try to offer more to guests to entice them to come back in for that first experience. Because once they have that first experience, I think that I think it's good to go. Like, and to your points, Lindsey and Kyle, about making sure you don't half-ass the branding or the attempt at bringing people back in, like not just throw patio tables on the parking lot and expect that to be enough. Because I think that that's that first experience back is very make or break. And so if we can show them online, we can prepare them for that first experience and say, hey, yeah, it's going to be a little weird. We're going to be wearing masks. That's going to be uncomfortable. You have to wear a mask in this place, but once you get set on, you know what I mean? Like, if you can make those guidelines clear and let people know what they're walking into, I think that we're preparing ourselves for success.
Yeah, that's really great, Hunter. I definitely wrote down what you said about how people miss being taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important, because that is what people feel when they go into any of these restaurants, right? They want to be cared for, and especially right now during a pandemic, like, things are a little crazy, and it's nice
Mm-hmm.
to know someone is looking out for you.
It was honestly like a fairly emotional experience to go dine out for the first time again. I wasn't expecting it to be, and so I think there's something there for restaurant owners and operators to really consider in their messaging moving forward for social media and how they're interacting with customers.
Yeah, that's true. Y'all didn't miss anything. I just took off the screen, the Google slides, because I realized they're kind of boring, and our faces are so much more entertaining. So we'll switch back to them whenever we have some examples to show off. But I know we wanted to talk to Kyle a little bit about influencers. So Kyle, are the influencers retired? Where are they? How are they doing? How can we work for them?
I think social media is on fire, obviously, right now, because everybody's stuck at home, and I think you can only watch so much TV, so you end up watching what's going on online on social channels. So influencers are probably more important than ever right now. Now, there's a catch. Restaurants predominantly don't have a lot of spare dollars to go pay influencers.
Right.
And so, that might be intimidating to some, but the reality is micro-influencers are probably better off for most brands anyway. If I go and get Kim Kardashian to post about my restaurants, only a fraction of her audience maybe lives in a market that I operate in. So finding those local micro-influencers, those that have, between 10,000 and say 40,000 followers. And one of the best ways that we do that is we actually go on to our own pages and do a search on who has tagged us recently, and just look at profiles and go, okay, this person has 15,000 followers and they posted about us last week. So they obviously like our brand. I can reach out to them directly and say, hey, I'd love to give you a gift card or something to come out and do another post for me. And it's amazing how much action you can get when you just reach out directly to people like that, because you're buying them a free meal and they're really excited about it, and they'll post for you. And it's their audience is your audience.
That's very true. That's very true. So the way, I don't want to miss this. So the way you find influencers, especially micro influencers right now, is you're looking on Insta and seeing who's tagging the Rustic, for example, in the post. And that's how and then you're chasing their profiles, basically.
Exactly. And it's tedious, but you can do it. You sit down for an hour a day, you can find 10 or 15 different people, reach out to them directly through DMs. And it's amazing what kind of a response you can get by just saying, hey, we'll give you a $30 gift card or something to come and post for us.
Now, you mentioned yesterday, too, the importance of reaching out to them right now, especially during the pandemic, because what will that look like when we're back to normal, or whatever normal is going to be?
Well, I don't know that anybody knows what normal is going to be, but I am a proponent of striking while the iron's hot. Yeah. And people are on their phones now more than ever. Social media traffic, I don't know the percentage. I think I've heard somewhere between 60 and 70% increase in social media traffic. And so eyeballs are on social media right now. And so it's important to capitalize on that, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then I'm going to stick with you, Kyle, for this next point too, about understanding your base and who you're actually targeting, and making sure that you're talking to the right people. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it kind of ties into what I was talking about, where, just understanding your base by knowing who's been in your restaurants. And so social media is a great way to find out who's been in your restaurants. And so communicating to them directly and having a dialogue with your base is important. It gives you feedback. It lets you know where your brand is. It lets you know where the consumer sees you, not where you see yourself, so that you can properly, execute on those ideas.
Yeah. Okay.
And if I can jump in for just 1 second to add, Kyle, that's another place where tagged photos are a really valuable resource. Just going through your tagged photos on Instagram, see what people perceive you as already, and then you can build from there.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. If you see, if I own a hamburger place and I start seeing a bunch of tagged photos about my French fries, I might realize that maybe people really like my French fries.
Exactly, man. I think that's severely underutilized.
Totally. Okay. Sorry, I just had to give my team a quick heads up. So we're going to switch back. I know I took it away, but now we're going to go back to the screen share because we have some good examples that I want us to show through, because it's better to just, share these ideas with you guys like this. And then we'll go back, I promise, to these faces. So on this one, my team grabbed a couple of really good screenshots. The first one, El Arroyo here in Texas or in Austin, they're very well known for using their billboard. Most of them are very clever. This one was really nice as well. But, use what you have. I think if you're known for a billboard, obviously it's going to get a lot more attention right now because, as Kyle said, the increase in social media views is pretty important right now. So this platform, while it's just on 5th Street in Austin, is all of a sudden amplified so much more because of the social media presence. I mean, when 20,000 people see it, 20,000 people may not even notice as they drive by, Austin right now. So it's get to amplified that way. Same thing if you have like a mural at your restaurant or something like that, using it for something in your social posts makes sense. Torchy's has done a really good job, I think, of putting their brand out there as well on social. Related to class of 2020, we know that they have had a miserable graduation experience, and so it's nice that they put this gift card out there. It's very splashy, it's very loud, it's very on brand for them, I'll say. A little different from what I see Hunter and Lindsey and Kyle do, frankly, but it works for their brand for sure. And then Lindsey, do you want to talk through these 2 posts right here that I know you provided to us?
Yeah, of course. So, we were talking yesterday about compassion and examples of how we can show that in social media. And I think both of these are, the love of the people inside the restaurant, sort of what you were talking about, Kyle, earlier, where you're introducing your staff, you're showing these are the people that are behind the food that you love. And, we're here for you. We may not be doing in-room dining yet, but please don't forget about us, basically. And, we can't wait to get back to doing what we were doing. And then also sort of like, how can you help? These are the things that you can do. You can, buy a gift card, you can get takeout, you can donate to Southern Smoke, and you're helping all of us. And we're all sort of in this together as an industry.
Exactly. I know that that's a question we get from a lot of consumers, is how to help restaurants. And there's lots of great funds out there to help the restaurant industry. Buying a gift card is great, but there's lots of other things they can do. So reminding them how to help, I think, is important. And it's kind of difficult, I think, for restaurant owners because they tend to be humble. They tend to not want to say like, I need help, but this is definitely a time that they need that attention. And we'll switch over here. Okay, so those of you in Austin, So Chinese Delivery, it's a woman-owned business. They are fantastic. They do a really good job on social. And they've been putting out a lot of really good posts recently related to, giving free meals to first responders. I think this was actually up. This is on Instagram, but they've been changing their website pretty much daily as well. They've also been really good, and I'm going to underline this one. Hunter mentioned earlier that people are using Facebook as Instagram as basically search engines, or maybe it was Kyle said it, one of you two said it. But don't forget about Google and the Google My Business tools, because discoverability is a really big component of marketing. And if people don't know that you're open, or, that's really bad too. So people search for dinner near me or lunch near me on Google using maps. So make sure you're using the Google My Business tools to update your current status and your hours, whether you're open for takeout, delivery, or dine-in. They have all those options available for you, and it's free. And if you have trouble getting something fixed in Google, let me know. I'm happy to help. We have a good relationship with the Google team. And then this is really great. Lindsey, do you want to talk about Chris's post the other day around the free mental health resources?
Yeah, definitely. So for those of you that don't No, Southern Smoke is an emergency relief nonprofit that was started by Chef Chris Shepard here in Houston and really kicked into high gear after Hurricane Harvey. We realized sort of the same sort of situation where restaurant employees were hurting, and people were asking us from around the country, how do we help? How do we help? And we didn't know the answer because there's no fund that would put money directly in the hands of restaurant industry employees. And so we started one. And so luckily we had this application process and committees, awards committees, vetting committees in place when COVID hit for about 2 years. So it had some time to sort of get a foundation of how to make it work. And so when COVID hit, we went straight into high gear, and immediately we'd had basically one full-time employee, 2 full-time employees, and 1 part-time employee with Southern Smoke that were on staff. And we now have 40. We've hired them all. They're all furloughed restaurant employees, and they're working as caseworkers. We've had almost 30,000 applications for assistance. We've been able to grant more than 1.8 million directly to almost 1,000 individuals, and we're still just working through those applications and trying to get people funded as quickly as possible. But this program actually started a couple of years ago. Nick Wong, who is the chef of UB Preserve, had lost a friend to suicide who was from the industry the day before Anthony Bourdain committed suicide. And he came to Chris and me and Catherine, who's the executive director of Southern Smoke, and said, we're having this big festival with all these chefs from around the country for the Southern Smoke Festival. If we don't get all of these people in a group and use it as a think tank while they're in town, we're doing something wrong. And so we did. We had this roundtable discussion and talked about mental health, and we talked about work-life balance, and we talked about how to keep your employees mentally healthy. And one of the things that we decided is we really need a way to provide mental health resources to the food and beverage industry. And it's taken Catherine, I think, 3 years, but we're working with Mental Health America of Greater Houston and the University of Houston Department of Psychology to provide this for anyone in Texas in the industry and their children. Because that's a topic that's been coming up a lot, is how are kids dealing with all of this. And so it's a very easy, you reach out via email. There's a whole page on the Southern Smoke website for mental health resources, and we connect you directly with a PhD student at U of H, and we go from there. So it's exciting. We just launched it yesterday, so we're pretty thrilled that we're able to offer this in addition to the fund. So like Southern Smoke has definitely been a silver lining for us throughout this whole thing, because it's a way to help. We don't feel as helpless.
Yeah, it's a really good organization, and thank you guys so much for putting together those free mental health resources. There's another organization, iheardyou.org, I think is what it is. They're also doing free mental health resources. Yep. And it's just whatever we can do to help each other, I think is so important right now. Hold on, okay, I missed it. I thought I had added something in from the rustic, Kyle. Sorry about that. Haley, I'm sorry, I missed it. Okay. So let's go forward into these next 3, and then we'll get over to press, because I know we're getting close on time, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time to go over that stuff. So the first thing is over here, Nancy's Hustle out of Houston, very irreverent brand, love them. If you can read this caption, Hunter, can you read the caption out loud for people so they can see it?
Yeah, so it says, we got merch, y'all, but the part that got me, it says, this tote will get you through this quarantine. You can carry it all around your house, or let us put your apocalyptic bodega order in it. And I thought it was so clever, because it's, especially because I imagine, I didn't look at the date on this one, but this seems to me like it probably was at the height of things being pretty terrifying for everybody. And this kind of humor like really broke through, I think, for a lot of people. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, it's good. I think what people showing off their swag has been really helpful, and I like this sort of sense of humor. It's very much in the vein of restaurant operators, right? It's slightly gallows humor. It's totally. It's funny, but it's also in a way trying to calm people down. In fact, my shirt, I don't know if y'all can read it. That's going to be okay. It's from Suerte. Chef Fermin says that, and I love the shirt so much. It makes me happy every time I wear it, because it is like, yeah, shit's kind of messed up right now, but it's going to be all right. And I like that Nancy's Hustle is able to sort of tap into that humor too. And then here in the middle, Peach Tortilla, also a brand out of Austin. Hunter actually wrote this caption, but showing off, what people can expect from staff, whenever they come to Peach.
And this is actually, these two ladies are, if you're not familiar, they run Daijobu pop-up, so they're not technically Peach Tortilla employees, but this post was again, this is May 1st, so you can see like kind of when things are still very, very dark for a lot of people. And they sent us this photo because we were looking for some kind of content to promote that pop-up with. And for one, it was a super fun, like, special event they did. And two, these girls were this photo, like, it's so positive, it's so bright. You can see, like, you can't see their faces behind the mask, but you can tell they're smiling. And I think that was such a positive, bright spot in that time. And it was a huge, huge success for both Daijobu and for Peach Tortilla.
Yeah, I agree. You can't, I like that you mentioned that. You can see their smile in their eyes, even though you can't see it on their face, which is really important. And then this last one over here, Chef Jason Dady out of San Antonio. One thing that we've touched on a couple times is restaurant owners are very humble, but when they need help, they really need help. And right now is the time that restaurant owners need that help. And he posted this video, this was like maybe 2 full months ago, essentially asking Governor Abbott and our senators for help. And one of the things that people can do to help restaurants right now is to really jump on board the advocacy efforts that we're trying to put out there. Restaurants tend to be a little hesitant about getting political. This isn't political, this is about survival. And Dady did it in a really nice way. It feels very authentic. His videos actually, Kyle, remind me a lot of yours. They're very raw. They're very just off the cuff, and he does a really good job of putting his message out there. I think you have better hair, but otherwise, I think they do putting it out there. Okay, I'm gonna switch off of this now so that we can go back to our faces. Because I know a couple people in the chat like that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the press. This has been a crazy time with the press lately. And I know I get press calls throughout the day. I send them out to different restaurants whenever I can. I love putting restaurants in front of the camera so that they can tell their story. But there are some things to pay attention to if you are a restaurant owner. And I think one of the things I'd like, Lindsey, for you to start with first is how to tell that pivot story. I know we talked about consumer expectations before, but how do you get the news out there that your restaurant is offering unique to-go options or is doing these classes online with the press?
Well, I think the basic rules of media relations don't change. You still have to be relevant. The question I ask myself, the 2 questions I ask myself all the time are why now, so what? And if I can't answer those questions, then it doesn't need to be going out to the media. So those still are important. Luckily, most of the things that we're doing right now are pretty relevant because people do want to know how we're pivoting, how we're changing. But it's also, again, the same rules, like be responsive, be honest, and get back to people, it's not that I see so many complaints from journalists saying I don't understand why PR people don't respond. And there's no excuse for not getting press if you're not responding. So I think it's being relevant and thoughtful when you're sending the message too. Because I've also seen the complaints about people that are trying to tag completely unrelated information to this tragedy. And that's a way to never get covered again.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We know that the relationship between press and business is very important, and we want to keep it sacred. I know Kyle and I, and I'm sure Lindsey has this too, we have our own black book of press that are good and press that are not so good. And we don't share them. I don't need to know theirs, but we probably have the same ones of people that we like to work with and people we don't. And this is coming from, I have 2 journalism degrees. I know what it's like to be on the press side. It's hard, but you want to get back to them quickly. They're often on deadline. They need those facts really, really quickly, especially if you can put them together in a very short press release. You don't have to do a long release. Short, quick, tweetable content is really important too. So let's talk a little bit. I'm sorry. Good
images. Yeah. Especially now, no one has time to send out a photographer.
That's so true. That's so true. And the videographers that are out there now too are doing a really good job. Kyle, I know I've sent a couple your way, they're doing a really good job of staying distant while doing the interviews too. So if you can get the restaurant in the background, that's really helpful. But Lindsey's right. Sending them good images is really important too.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about closing announcements. Typically, Lindsey, we talked about this, restaurants don't send out an announcement whenever they're closing their restaurant. And we are seeing more. We have 12% that have closed right now, and we're going to see more over the summer permanently close. Why should a restaurant send out a closing announcement right now?
I think, and I actually got one today that I should have forwarded to you. Sadly, the tasting room in Uptown Park is closing, and the owner sent a letter. I mean, it was written by him, and it was long, and and I think he was hitting every point that we had talked about yesterday, that it's important to know and explain why. I mean, we all know restaurants are hurting, people are not dining out, but what people don't know are the crazy razor thin margins that, you know, one week being closed during Hurricane Harvey, I think 6 prominent restaurants in Houston closed forever after that. I mean, people don't realize that tiny little amount of time can do so much damage. And that we're at 3 months now. So it's understanding that life as we know it is not going to be the same.
Yeah.
And having the detail, it's not something to sweep under the rug, because it's an important thing in our culture that is in danger. And I think we need to share.
Yeah, I agree. It's an important component of the story, and it's almost an obligation you have for the restaurant owners that are still around, right? Is to tell your story and try and get it out there. I mean, gosh, Kyle, I hope you guys never have to go through that, but please, if you do, I'll knock on wood for you here too, buddy. But it is an important thing to share. So anything else on that, Hunter or Kyle, want to chime in? That's okay. We have more to talk about.
I think she covered it pretty well.
Yes, she did. So the next one is one I know everyone wants to hear about, is what to do when an employee gets sick, because chances are it will happen. Hopefully not, but you need to be prepared for what to do after that. We have a guide online for what you need to do in terms of keeping people safe, contacting the health department, how to sanitize, who should be quarantined, that kind of thing. But Lindsey, I'd like for you to start talking a little bit about how to handle the media when that happens. And then Kyle, if you can talk a little bit about your pod system that you have in place.
Sure.
Yeah, so again, be honest, don't lie to the media, and be transparent. You know, it's important for, just as with the reopening, these are all of the things we're doing to keep you safe when you're in our building or you're eating our food in your own home. It's the same kind of thing. This is how we are taking care of this situation. I hope no one has to go through it, because what we talked about this yesterday, what we've seen is that when people have done that, the response has been good and has been supportive. Mm-hmm. And I hope it continues, because sadly, I don't think that's the last time that's going to happen. It's probably going to happen more and more now that we're opening back up. I mean, Governor Abbott said so. Yeah. So it's understanding that the restaurant owners are doing everything that they can the minute they find out, and being transparent with their guests and the media.
And Kyle, before we switch to you first, Hunter, can you sort of give a recap to people of like what happened here in Austin with the announcements we saw with local restaurants and how that was?
Yeah, I think most notably, what came to mind immediately yesterday that we talked about was Home Slice. Super well respected company, and they did everything they could, and everybody is going to, but someone got sick, and this has happened now at both of their locations in different times. But they posted about it immediately, and every single comment from the moment they announced, hey, this happened, here's what we're doing, to, hey, we're all clear, we're opening back up, here's what we did. Everything was positive. And I think that's only because they got in front of it, and they controlled the narrative, and they were able to give people information before it got to them a different way, through telephone. And then another example was a food trailer here in town called Bummer Burrito, which is the same guy's little brother. They have Brew and Brew. very great hospitality company. And they had the same thing. Someone got sick. They immediately posted about it. They said, we're going to shut down. We're going to spend the next 3 days cleaning and detailing, and we'll let you know what happens. Again, all positive messages until they got the all clear to open back up. And it was, again, positive messaging. I think it just is. It's like you said, I mean, and it can't be overstated, just being honest and upfront, and again, just acknowledging that you're part of the community. Like, it's not something that you struggle through silently and alone. It's something that we're all going through, whether you're someone who just likes to eat at restaurants or you're someone who owns one.
It's very true. So Kyle, talk a little bit about the pod system you have. That's more on the operations side, but I think it's really important for people to hear.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, our thought was, you know, ultimately the chances that somebody gets sick is, I mean, I don't know what they are, but there is a chance that somebody, one of our team members gets sick. So we obviously wanted a messaging plan in place in case that happened, but we also wanted an operational plan, and they went kind of hand in hand. So if you're a multi-unit operator, I would suggest making sure that nobody transfers from one unit to another, that, you know, the stores can kind of stay on an island and remain isolated. And then within the store, even if you're a one unit brand or a multi-unit brand within the store, we try to, well, we go to pod system or team system. So we have team A, B, and C, and we never have crossover between those teams, so that if somebody from team A gets sick, we quarantine team A, we shut the place down, we clean everything, but then we still have team B and team C who can still operate. So if you have the manpower to do that, that's a great way to, you know, just kind of prepare for something that hopefully doesn't happen, but in case it does, it doesn't shut you down for 2 weeks. It might shut you down for a day or two.
Yeah, that's true. We have a question in the chat, and I'll just address it real quick because I know we covered it a little bit yesterday, around how to communicate with consumers about the rising cost of proteins. We've seen that across the board. I've seen something as like, I think beef prices in Houston jumped 80% 1 week. I think they're back down now, but it's pretty high. Everyone that was on this group yesterday, they recommended, you know, if you need to raise your menu prices, raise your menu prices. And Kyle had some really good advice saying that, to paraphrase you, Kyle, that if you have to justify yourself, maybe the value isn't there. So just go ahead and do what you need to for your business, and don't worry so much about justifying it to consumers. Chances are most of them won't question you. And if they do have a question, hopefully they'll come straight to you about that too. Kyle, is there anything, I know I paraphrased you. Is there anything I missed?
You said it better than I did.
Okay, good. But that is an issue. So I want to make sure we address that, because I do feel for you guys on that. And then Kyle,
Okay. Sorry, if I can jump in on that. Kyle, you were talking yesterday too. On that same topic, we were talking a little bit further about, like, if you do end up having to lose a portion of that clientele, it's okay to lose. It's okay to lose bad customers. And I think that I don't say that lightly, because I know that right now every single dollar is a dollar in your bank account, and it helps. But I think there have been some allowances that have been made from the customer satisfaction side that have maybe impacted the margins in this industry. And so if you have to raise your prices to keep yourself and your team and your restaurant afloat, and you lose some bad customers from that, you'll gain customers on the other end of it. You just have to stay open to do that. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And Hunter, jump in whenever you want. It's totally fine. Thanks. new to the webinars.
No, it's fine. You usually have to wave frantically, otherwise I can't see you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how to give a good interview. Lindsey, can you give us a few tips that you give your restaurant clients around doing the interview? And then Kyle, I'd like for you to talk a little bit about the mask, no mask thing that we discussed yesterday.
Yeah, I like the no mask, or the mask, no mask. I think that people are confident and comfortable in front of the camera if they know the message that they're talking about. So in most cases, restaurant owners should have the knowledge, feel confident about what they're going to say, but it's also stick to the top line points and don't let them maneuver around you, I guess is a good way to say it. But it's always making sure that you're sticking with your message, whatever that may be. It could be about your safety protocols. It could be about your takeout at HEB. It could be, many things, but it's just making sure that people the questions are staying focused on what the interview is supposed to be about.
Yeah, perfect. And then Kyle, you want to take your, I don't know where you're going.
I think he's
Yes.
going to get a mask.
Oh,
I'm trying to get out of the sun. My my computer was getting hot.
okay.
So yeah, I mean, the mask police is out in full force. I see it on social media. If somebody takes a picture, and they're really quick to jump on you for not wearing a mask. So my strategy for giving interviews, I also don't like to have a mask on in interviews. So I just put a mask around my neck so that it's obvious that I have one, but then I conduct the interview outside of the building in front of my sign so that they see where I'm at, but they can't bust me for being inside the building without a mask. That was the strategy. Oh, I think I lost you.
We also got some feedback from our insurance broker that right now, stay away from any sort of video or images that really show people inside the restaurant, just to be on the safe side, because we don't know what's really happening with all of these. A lot of the insurance claims have been denied, but they're looking for reasons to deny them, and they'll be looking on social media and traditional media to find reasons to deny you. So she said, just don't do it inside.
That's a really good point. And I wonder too, Lindsey, does that carry over to social media images that we have too? Should people be careful about what kind of images they're posting? For Kyle is nodding emphatically.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it's tricky because you can't control what people inside your restaurant, now that we're allowing people to come back in, are doing, but at least we can control what we're putting out there.
Well, we made the mistake of posting an older image of team members kind of in the building. I think it was a shot of some bartenders making drinks, and it wasn't a current image. It was kind of something we took months ago, but we didn't think that through, and of course the mask police jumped out at us and were all over us.
The mask police. Oh my God. Okay.
That's kind of where we'll see kind of the veil of social media start to kind of fail right now, because for most businesses, for all of my clients, previous to 8 weeks ago, we were always a month ahead on our calendar. So we know what we're posting. We have the images, we're like, you have to be ahead of the game if you have programming, like if you have anything going on, or you want to be intentional about your messaging. And so now, again, you get to the problem where that's been a huge issue, is that a lot of our photos are lifestyle, and they have people doing things that 8 weeks ago were like super cute and super on brand. And now like, you're like, what the fuck, why are they? That's one.
Yeah.
You say that's, I just derailed myself, sorry. But so I wanted to chime in earlier with the influencers and with Lindsey was saying to send good photos. And that's always been something that I've talked about for our clients, is that we've been able to get placement in articles and things like that we wouldn't have, because someone emailed me and said, hey, I need photos in like 30 minutes. Someone didn't send what they had. Do you have anybody? And I'm like, boom, here's 5. Pick who you want and put them in your article. But right now, if you have budget issues, or you have nobody on your team that can take good photos or is confident taking good photos, that's another good place to reach out to influencers and make a call, make a single post on your Instagram or your Facebook and say, hey, we need some help. We need new photos. We're willing to work and trade for gift cards or food or whatever. And I think right now that doesn't read as desperate. I think that it's very much, it's very much something that influencers want to do. A lot of photographers are offering their services for free. So if you let it be known that you need help, I think there are resources that will rally around you. And the photography, I can't stress enough. And like you said, like having current photography that represents what you're actually doing right now is really important. And it's easy to come by right now if you just ask for help.
Yeah, very true. I know we're past time. I'm going to ask us to extend it just a couple minutes because I want to ask this last question related to gotcha stories that are out there. We know, Kyle and I talked about this yesterday. There are some journalists out there looking for the negative spin on the subject. right? And how do you avoid that, or how do you change the conversation whenever you realize, like, maybe you're in the interview and the journalist starts asking you questions that feel more negative than what you were expecting? Kyle, what do you do in that situation? And then Lindsey, afterward, how would you coach your clients too?
Well, I think Lindsey made the point that you've got to stay focused and stay on topic. You've got to know what you're there to discuss, and you've got to stay on that topic. Ultimately, though, you can't prevent negative stories from happening. I think that times like this, really any time, if you're rigid and you don't change, you're going to lose. If you're those that adapt and can pivot and are flexible, will win. But then also you got to be bold during times like this. And you have to be willing to have people that aren't going to like you. And that's just kind of part of it. There's people that I know that are mad that I'm opening restaurants. That's not my problem. They can be mad. They're probably not my customer anyway. They're the Twitter trolls that are in their mom's basement eating Hot Pockets and just bashing on people. So, you just can't get your feelings hurt when people or the media is kind of against you in some capacity. Whatever decision you make, and I actually would lean towards becoming more bold and more. This says my internet connection is unstable, so if I lose you, that's why. But I would recommend being more bold and more brave. I'm not a big UFC fan, but I was watching the post interview of Dana White, who owns UFC and is the kind of the leader or the front man or whatever. In the interview after his first fight, or after their first fight, one of the reporters said, well, a New York Times writer wrote this piece about how you shouldn't be opening. And Dana White just goes, I don't know who that is, and I don't give a, what he thinks. I'm running my business and I'm moving forward, and my fans are excited that we're opening. And that's kind of the stance you have to take in a way. It's a little Trumpian, but I think you have to go that way.
Lindsey, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, my only suggestion would just be to make sure that the execution is actually aligned with the message. So for example, if you're promoting that you're doing all these things and you're social distancing and you're clean, and then people show up and you're having a pool party at your club, you really don't have a leg to stand on. So it's just, you got to walk the walk too.
Great point.
Yeah, that's really good. Any final thoughts, guys? We got to most of the questions. I'm sorry if we didn't get to some of yours. We'll follow up with you afterward. But any final thoughts that we want to leave people with, Hunter?
I said a whole lot of stuff. I'm good.
Okay.
I just saw that there's questions. I didn't know that.
We've been answering them.
Yeah, I didn't. That was Bossy running around in the background.
Oh, I sure didn't either. All right, cool.
It's all right, guys. I got you covered.
Yeah, again, new to webinars.
Thank you.
It's all a learning process.
Okay.
I will say, if anybody, like, I'm stretched with my current clients, but I do want to be a resource. So if there is, like, if someone does have trouble figuring out how to acquire photography, or how to send that first DM to an influencer, if there's something that I can help you with remotely through email, just reach out. My contact information is on my website, or send it through the form. I'm happy to help connect dots where I can, and if you're in Austin, I'm happy to help if I can.
Thank you, Hunter. Lindsey, any thoughts from you?
If anybody needs grants or funding, I encourage them to apply to Southern Smoke at southernsmoke.org. Or if you need mental health assistance, all the information's there. Or if you would like to donate, you can do that too.
Great. And I have to plug as well our Texas Restaurant Relief Fund that we launched about 8 weeks ago as well. That money goes to restaurants versus Southern Smoke goes directly to individuals. You should donate to both. Just do both.
Donate to both.
That'd be great. Thank you, each three of you, so much. I really appreciate you being a part of this. I know that our guests really appreciated your help as well. And thank you so much to Upshow for providing the financial assistance so that we can create this great educational content. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'm sure I'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.